In order to help another effectively, I must understand what he understands. If I do not know that, my greater understanding will be of no help to him. Instruction begins when you put yourself in his place so that you may understand what he. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen but, if one will, are to be lived. God creates everything out of nothing. And everything which God is to use, he first reduces to nothing. The best news the world has ever heard came from a graveyard: Christ is risen. Most people are subjective toward themselves and objective toward all others, frightfully objective sometimes, but the task is precisely to be objective toward oneself and subjective toward all others. A man may perform astonishing feats and comprehend a vast amount of knowledge, and yet have no understanding of himself. But suffering directs a man to look within. If it succeeds, then there, within him, is the beginning of his learning. Are you not aware that there comes a midnight hour when everyone must unmask? It is not the path which is the difficulty, rather, it is the difficulty which is the path. The greatest danger to Christianity is, I contend, not heresies, not heterodoxies, not atheists, not profane secularism, no, but the kind of orthodoxy which is cordial drivel, mediocrity served up sweet. There is nothing that so insidiously displaces the majestic as cordiality. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. A man prayed, and at first he thought that prayer was talking. But he became more and more quiet until in the end he realized prayer as listening. The tyrant dies and his rule is over, the martyr dies and his rule begins. Where am I? Who am I? How did I come to be here? What is this thing called the world? How did I come into the world? Why was I not consulted? And if I am compelled to take part in it, where is the director? I want to see him. For without risk there is no faith, and the greater the risk, the greater the faith. Once you're born in this world, you're old enough to die. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. If I were a physician, and if I were allowed to prescribe just one remedy for all the ills of the modern world, I would prescribe silence. For even if the word of God were proclaimed in the modern world, how could one hear it with so much noise? Therefore, create silence. And this is one of the most crucial definitions for the whole of Christianity, that the opposite of sin is not virtue but faith. To be a woman is something so strange, so confusing and so complicated that only a woman could put up with it. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true, the other is to refuse to believe what is true. It is better to try something and fail than to try nothing and succeed. The result may be the same, but you won't be. We always grow more through defeats than victories. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. I found I had less and less to say, until finally, I became silent, and began to listen. I discovered in the silence, the voice of God. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use. Geniuses are like thunderstorms, they go against the wind, terrify people, clear the air. People settle for a level of despair they can tolerate and call it happiness. Take a chance and you may lose. Take not a chance and you have lost already. If I could prescribe only one remedy for all the ills of the modern world, I would prescribe silence. Above all, do not lose your desire to walk. Every day, I walk myself into a state of well-being and walk away from every illness. I have walked myself into my best thoughts, and I know of no thought so burdensome that one cannot walk away from it. Boo! The Bible is very easy to understand. But we Christians are a bunch of scheming swindlers. We pretend to be unable to understand it because we know very well that the minute we understand, we are obliged to act accordingly. The minority is always stronger than the majority, because the minority is generally formed by those who really have an opinion. The truth is a trap, you cannot get it without it getting you, you cannot get the truth by capturing it, only by its capturing you. The unhappy person is never present to themselves because they always live in the past or the future. The question is not to be or not to be, it is what we should be until we are not. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. The self-assured believer is a greater sinner in the eyes of God than the troubled disbeliever. I'm so misunderstood that people misunderstand me even when I tell them I'm misunderstood.